$40 a year. That's what you spend killing this weed in your yard. My grandfather paid real money to grow it, for his heart. Have you ever pulled a yellow dandelion out of your lawn, crushed it under a boot, sprayed it with weed killer? Most of us have done one of those things. I know I did, for almost 40 years. Now imagine your great-grandmother watching you do it. Imagine the look on her face. Because in her time, that yellow flower wasn't a weed, it was medicine. The kind you walked outside and harvested, the kind that didn't need a prescription, didn't need an insurance card, didn't need a $200 copay, it just grew. And people knew what to do with it. Today, we don't. If you're over 60 and you've been taking a cholesterol pill for the last 5, 8, 12 years, and you're starting to wonder if there's something your grandparents knew that we forgot, stay with me for the next 20 minutes. I'm Samuel Whitaker. For 30 years, I stood behind a pharmacy counter in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. I filled the same prescriptions you fill. I rang up the same $200 receipts you sign every month. And about 3 years ago, I opened a notebook my grandmother left behind. What I found in it changed how I understand American medicine. If this is your first time on this channel, take a second right now and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell while you're at it, because what we do here is put the old books back on the table. The ones our grandparents trusted, the ones that got quietly removed from the shelves over the last 100 years. If that matters to you, you belong here. What I'm going to share with you today is the story of one yellow weed that grows in 90 million American lawns every spring. The same plant pioneer families dug from their land for 150 years, for their hearts, for their arteries, for their blood. Right now, 55% of Americans over 65 have what the doctors call high cholesterol. The standard answer is a statin, a pill you take every day for the rest of your life. No off-ramp, just a refill every 90 days. How many of you watching are on one of those pills? 1, 2, 3 different prescriptions stacked on your kitchen counter. Drop a comment below. Just type the number. I want to see how many of us are in the same boat. The retail price for the most prescribed brand, without good insurance, is $226 a month. Some go up to $336. The cheapest generic was around $173. Average it out, and folks like us are spending around $217 a month, $2,600 a year, on a single pill. Over 10 years, that's $26,000. Now here's the part that took me by surprise. Last spring, my neighbor, Goodman 68, on 3 medications, paid $40 to a lawn service to spray his yard, to kill the dandelions. The same plant his own grandfather, who lived on that same property in the 1940s, used to dig up every Sunday morning to roast on the stove for his heart. Same property, same plant. One generation paid to grow it, the next paid to destroy it. And the difference between those 2 generations is something the lawn care industry has spent 40 years selling us, and something the pharmaceutical industry was very happy to let happen, because a plant that grows on its own, that nobody can patent, that costs nothing. That plant doesn't show up on a quarterly earnings report, but a pill does. Think about that for a moment. A plant that costs nothing cannot be sold. A plant that grows in every yard cannot be controlled. A plant that your great-grandmother could prepare without a doctor's permission cannot be regulated. So what happens to it? It gets called a weed, it gets sprayed, it gets forgotten, and in its place, we get a pill, a patentable, profitable, lifetime subscription pill. This is not a conspiracy, it's something quieter and in some ways more disturbing. It's what happens when a country slowly loses the memory of what it used to know. Now, before I tell you what my grandfather actually did with this plant, I need to walk you through something else. Because there's one mistake almost everybody makes when they try to harvest dandelion, and it can turn medicine into something dangerous. But first, you need to understand why this plant disappeared from American medicine. For 30 years, I dispensed statins. I didn't question them. The protocol was clear. High cholesterol, here's your prescription, see you in 90 days. And for 30 years, I dismissed everything my grandmother used to do, the dried roots in jars, the bitter teas she brewed every Sunday afternoon, the notebook with handwritten recipes from the 1890s. I called it folk nonsense. I had the white coat, I had the diploma. What did an old woman in the mountains know that I didn't? Folks, that arrogance cost me 30 years. Then in 2023, my own father got sick. He'd been on a statin for 12 years. 12 years of muscle pain that the doctors kept telling him was just aging. He was 78, and he was tired in a way that didn't match the man I grew up with, the man who used to chop wood until sundown. That man was gone. We talked. Long conversations on the front porch, the kind that don't happen until somebody's running out of time. He told me he wanted to try something his own father used to do. Every Sunday morning in 1946, my grandfather would dig 3 roots from the lawn, bring them inside, and roast them in the oven until they smelled like coffee. He'd grind them up and brew them in hot water, 8 minutes, never longer. He drank 1 cup every Sunday for 45 years. He lived to 91. His arteries, on autopsy, were cleaner than men 20 years younger. The country doctor who wrote up the report used the phrase remarkably preserved. My father, under the supervision of his doctor, slowly added that same Sunday root to his routine, not to replace anything, just to add it. 5 months later, his lipid panel had moved in a direction his cardiologist couldn't explain. The numbers were better. His muscle pain hadn't gotten worse. The doctor wrote those changes down, couldn't explain it, but couldn't deny what the blood work showed. That's when I went home and opened my grandmother's notebook for the first time in 30 years. I was wrong, folks. For 3 decades, I was wrong. There are a lot of us who were never told the full story. How many of you have a grandmother who used to grow herbs in the kitchen window? Who kept dried bundles hanging from rafters? Who made teas nobody else in the family understood? Tell me about her in the comments. Tell me her name. Tell me where she was from. Every one of those women carried knowledge that didn't make it into a medical journal, and we're losing them. Fast. The full story starts with one fact almost nobody knows. This plant, this weed, was officially listed as medicine in the United States Pharmacopoeia for 95 years. The dandelion, Taraxacum officinale, that's the Latin, was not a wild American plant. Our colonial ancestors brought it across the Atlantic on purpose in the 1600s, packed in seed pouches alongside their other valued cultivars. They didn't bring weeds, they brought medicine. In every pioneer homestead from Pennsylvania down through the Appalachians, dandelion was the first plant of spring. They called it the spring tonic. The women dug fresh roots and gathered the young leaves to clean the blood, support the liver, and, this is the specific phrase from old eclectic medical texts, to soften the arteries. If anything I've said so far has rung true, hit that thumbs up. It costs you nothing, and it tells YouTube to show this to other folks who need to hear it. The algorithm cares about signals, so give it a signal. Stay with me. Once you see how this plant actually works in the body, you're going to understand exactly why your great-grandparents weren't fools, and why the science is finally catching up to them, almost 100 years late. Here's the simple version. And remember, I'm a pharmacist by training. I don't say this lightly. I spent 3 decades learning how drugs work. So when I tell you this plant is doing something real, I'm not speaking from sentiment. Cholesterol isn't made in your heart. It's made in your liver. The liver decides how much cholesterol your body produces, how much it recycles, and how much it pulls out of your bloodstream. When the liver isn't working efficiently, cholesterol numbers climb. When the liver is supported, cholesterol numbers tend to behave better. This is Liver 101. Every medical student learns it. What gets lost is the second half. What supports the liver? Dandelion root has been used for hundreds of years, specifically as a liver tonic. The German government's official Herbal Medicine Commission, what they call the Commission E, formally recognized Taraxacum for supporting digestive function and stimulating bile flow. That's a federal regulatory body. In Germany, the leaves do something different. They're a gentle, natural diuretic. And unlike pharmaceutical diuretics, dandelion leaves are unusually rich in potassium. Most diuretics deplete potassium. Dandelion replaces it. The plant, in a sense, balances itself. I'm not telling you dandelion is a replacement for any medication you're taking. I'm not your doctor. This is educational, historical context. Always talk to your physician before changing anything. But when your grandparents dug dandelion from the lawn for heart health, they weren't being superstitious. They were doing something the liver actually responds to. The traditional use and the modern understanding are pointing at the same picture. From two different sides, 100 years apart, same plant. So here's the question that bothered me for 2 years. If this plant was in the official U.S. Pharmacopoeia from 1831 to 1926 for 95 years, then how did it become the most hated weed in the country? Folks, the answer is one of the cleanest examples of cultural memory loss I've ever found. In 1926, dandelion was quietly removed from the Pharmacopoeia. No fanfare, no public reason given. The eclectic physicians who used plant medicine through the 1800s were already being squeezed out of the medical schools. Their textbooks went out of print, their clinics closed. Then came 1987. The first prescription cholesterol-lowering pill, the first statin, was approved by the FDA. A pill taken daily for life. Patentable, profitable. By the early 2000s, statins were one of the most prescribed drug categories in the world. And in that same period, what happened to dandelion? The lawn care industry happened. Have you ever stopped to think about how strange that phrase is? Lawn care industry, as if a small patch of grass in front of your house required an industry to take care of it. This is just one of dozens of plants that disappeared from American medicine cabinets during that same window. In my grandmother's notebook, there are at least 37 of them, some for circulation, some for sleep, some for joint pain. If you want to see those upcoming videos as soon as they're posted, you've got to be subscribed. The algorithm doesn't notify casual viewers. It notifies subscribers with the bell on. So pause this video, hit subscribe, ring the bell. In about 2 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to identify the real Taraxacum officinale in your own yard. Because there are two look-alike plants that are not the same thing. From the 1940s onward, a powerful new industry sold America a new dream. The perfect emerald green lawn, no clover, no daisies, no yellow flowers, just turf grass, uniform, sterile, controlled. The dandelion, which had been a respected medicinal plant for 3 centuries on this continent, became almost overnight the visual symbol of a bad yard. Today, Americans collectively spend billions of dollars every year on chemicals designed to kill this plant. Billions. To kill what their own grandparents paid to grow. That's what I mean by cultural memory loss. It's just what happens when an entire culture forgets, over 2 or 3 generations, that it ever had medicine on its own land. Did your parents teach you any plants? I don't mean house plants. I mean wild plants, edible plants, medicinal plants. Drop your answer in the comments, yes or no. I'm taking notes. Now I want to show you the trail of evidence. First, historical proof. The United States Pharmacopoeia. Taraxacum officinale was listed in it from 1831 to 1926. 95 years. It wasn't fringe medicine, it was the standard. In 1898, a doctor named Harvey Felter and his colleague John Lloyd published King's American Dispensatory, the Bible of American Eclectic Medicine. They devote pages to dandelion root, specifically describing its use as a liver tonic and a gentle alterative. Second, cultural proof. The Amish today still gather dandelion in spring. They didn't get the memo from the lawn care industry. Their elderly are notably less burdened by chronic disease than the surrounding rural populations. In Mennonite communities across Pennsylvania, dandelion wine, fermented from the flowers, was a household tradition into the 1970s, not for getting drunk, as a tonic. Third, ancestral proof. My grandfather, Howard Whitaker, born 1912, lived in Patrick County, Virginia. Never took a pharmaceutical until he was 86, drank his Sunday root coffee for 45 years, died at 91 of natural causes. His physician noted that his coronary arteries were remarkably preserved for a man of his age. That's one man. It's an anecdote. But when you sit down with rural elders across Appalachia, you hear that story over and over. Now think about your own family, your grandparents. Did they live long? Did they live well? Were they working with their hands until late in life? Tell me in the comments. My grandmother wrote everything down, every recipe, every season. In her notebook, there are not only 4 dandelion recipes. There are remedies for joint pain, restless sleep, memory, digestion. I spent the last 3 years compiling her notebook, plus the recipes from 6 other Appalachian families, into one reference book. It's called The Lost Book of Herbal Remedies. The link is in the description below this video. Hundreds of remedies, photo identification charts, harvest calendars. Fourth, observational proof. In my 30 years at the pharmacy, the farmers who came in, the ones who still ate from their own gardens, they were on fewer medications than the people in town. I dismissed it as good genes back then. I have an explanation now. Fifth, modern rediscovery. Peer-reviewed research has begun looking again at Taraxacum officinale, published work in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, examining its effects on lipid metabolism. The Commission E-monograph in Germany. The USDA Plants Database lists Taraxacum officinale with a full taxonomic profile. I'm not telling you the science is settled. It's not. I'm telling you the question is real. And the answer your great-grandmother lived by deserves a second look. If this conversation is helping you think differently, even a little, do 2 small things. First, hit the like button. Second, drop the word remember in the comments. Just that one word. It tells me in a single glance who's still here, who's paying attention. I read every comment with that word. All right. Now the practical part. 3 things you need to know: identification, the harvest rule, and the preparation. First, identification. Real Taraxacum officinale has 3 signs. Number 1. The leaves are deeply jagged, like a series of sharp teeth pointing back toward the center. The name dandelion comes from the French phrase dent de lion, lion's tooth. Number 2. When you break the stem, it leaks a milky white sap, always, every part of the plant. Number 3. The stem is hollow and the plant grows a single flower per stem. Snap the flower stem and look at the cross-section. If it's hollow, you're good. 2 common lookalikes will fool you. Cat's ear has hairy leaves and branched stems. Hawkweed has narrow, less jagged leaves. Neither is poisonous, but they don't have the same compounds. Second, the harvest rule. Never harvest dandelion from a lawn that has been treated with herbicide in the last 3 years. Lawn care chemicals persist in the soil for far longer than people realize. The plant absorbs whatever's in its soil, medicine and toxin both. The safest places to harvest? Old untreated rural lawns, wild meadows, forest edges, anywhere you can confirm no synthetic chemicals have been applied. If you don't know, don't harvest. In the Lost Book of Herbal Remedies, I include photo identification charts for every plant, including dandelion and its 3 most common lookalikes, plus a complete harvest calendar by region. The link is in the description. Third, the preparation. Pioneer's coffee. The one my grandfather made every Sunday morning in 1946. Step 1. Harvest the roots in autumn, not spring. The leaves are best in spring, but the root has its strongest profile in autumn, when the plant has pulled its energy down for the winter. Step 2. Wash the roots thoroughly. Cut them lengthwise into thin strips, about a 1/4 inch thick. Step 3. Spread them on a baking sheet in a low oven, around 300 degrees Fahrenheit, about 150 Celsius. Roast slowly for about 2 hours until they turn a deep coffee brown. Your kitchen will smell like roasting coffee. Step 4, and this is the detail almost no modern herbal book mentions. Once roasted and cooled, grind them and brew them like coffee. 2 tablespoons of ground roasted root for 1 cup of hot water. Steep for exactly 8 minutes. Strain. Here's the part that took me 3 years to find in my grandmother's notes. Never reboil the brew. Never reheat it on the stove. Reboiling destroys the gentle compounds. The bitterness comes back, but the medicine doesn't. That's the recipe. 2 tablespoons, 8 minutes. 1 boil, never 2. My grandfather drank 1 cup on Sunday morning year-round. He cycled it. 6 weeks on, 1 week off. That's the old Appalachian pattern. Now, I have to say this clearly. If you currently take any cholesterol medication, blood pressure medication, or diuretic, talk to your doctor before adding anything new. Dandelion supports the body. It does not replace prescribed medication. It can interact with certain drugs, particularly diuretics, lithium, and blood thinners. This is not medical advice. This is historical, educational context. Your great-grandmother knew more medicine than today's doctors will admit. Not because she was smarter, but because she lived in a culture that hadn't forgotten yet. That chain broke in our generation, but chains can be repaired. $40 to kill a plant your grandfather paid to grow, $217 a month for a pill that in 1946 didn't exist. And Americans somehow lived to be 91 anyway. What plant growing within 10 feet of your front door right now might be medicine you don't recognize? Tell me in the comments. If any of this matters to you, the link to The Lost Book of Herbal Remedies is in the description. The full collection from my grandmother's notebook, plus 6 other Appalachian families. Next week, I'm going to show you the second free plant from my grandfather's lawn, the one he used for blood pressure. Click the video on the screen or look in the description. If you want me to keep doing this, hit subscribe, ring the bell. Share this video with one person who needs to hear it. Just one. That's how this kind of knowledge spreads. And drop one final word for me. Just one word. Say which video you want me to make next. Sleep, memory, joints, pressure, digestion. I'll count the answers. This video is for educational and historical purposes only. Always consult your healthcare provider before starting any new herbal preparation. Take care of yourself and your family the way your grandmother did. This is Samuel Whitaker.